From the Karens that always want to speak to your manager, to Karens that think it's their world and the rest of us are just living in it, here are 8 of the worst Karens that just took it too far. Number 9. Who? Let's begin with, what is a Karen? If you're not familiar with the term, a Karen refers to a person who is perceived to be entitled or demanding beyond the scope of what is appropriate or necessary. So basically, like if you go into a store and a person, in this case a woman, was behind you and you both tried to get in the same line, she does everything she can to get ahead of you, including knocking your cart away because she believes she deserves to go first, and lets you know about it. That's a Karen. She's someone who demands her own way at the expense of others, and she usually has an asymmetrical bob haircut. And of course, Karen always wants to speak to your manager. To be clear, not all women are Karens. This term is made to single out those who feel entitled and make major scenes at places because they feel like they can. And most of the time when they do this, it's over something that normally wouldn't bother anyone else. Oh, Karen, simmer down. So with that being said, here are some great examples of these ladies. Number 8, Karen's mask. In the world as it stands right now, there are certain guidelines that need to be followed and appreciated. One of the big ones is the need to wear a mask when you're out in public. The mask is apparently meant to both shield you from harm while also protecting others from you, especially if you cough, sneeze, or you're sick in any way. A man recorded a confrontation with him and a Karen who came into a store wearing a mask that had a hole in it. But not just any hole, one that completely exposed her mouth. Her reasoning was that it was detrimental to her breathing, and thus she was fine in wearing it like this. Okay, this is not true. Leaving it open like that exposes people to potential things coming out of that mouth, which is why you wear the mask in the first place. The story did not end there though. Oh no, as the woman came back to complain after the man noted the problem with the mask she was wearing by posting about it on the internet. She apparently found the video he recorded of her wearing the mask with the hole and came into the store to demand to speak to his manager. Well, he happened to be the manager, and as he noted happily, she was wearing a proper mask because of this. Number 7, Karen spot. Here is a case of a Karen who feels they know what is best, but in this case, she takes family to another level. Here's the scene. A woman is in a parking lot trying to help her daughter get a parking spot in a rather crowded parking lot. Usually, this would end with her walking the beat and trying to find one and guiding her daughter to it. But in the case of this Karen, she sees that a spot has opened up and then that another car, driven by some young teenagers, is about to pull into it. So what does she do? She goes up to the car and sits on it. No, really. She just sits on it and pretends like it's no big deal. Naturally, the younger women in the car start to call her out on it. And the Karen literally says, "I'm not sitting on your car, I'm leaning on it." It doesn't matter whether you're leaning or sitting, it's that you are preventing them from getting the spot that they have a right to. The Karen refuses to yield, and as a result, the altercation between them gets louder and louder, especially when the younger woman pointed out that there's another parking spot right next to it and that she can have that one. Karen refuses to move and tells her daughter, who's in the car, to get into the spot. Wow. Just wow. If there was one spot left and the two wanted to fight over it, that might be different. But to forcefully put yourself on a car to get your daughter into the spot so that the car you're on doesn't take it, that's an entirely new level of arrogance. As some have noted, the girls could have removed the seat from the woman by driving backwards or forcing her hand or body by continuing to drive forward. The irony for the Karen, though, is that her daughter had more compassion than her and refused to take the spot. Number 6, Karen's Hot Wheels. Kids' toys can be dangerous. Kids' toys can be annoying. And kids' toys can be a bit hard to control at times. But I guess if you're responsible and understand the age rules and such, read the manual, whatever, you'll be okay. But this Karen does not care about that stuff. At a park one day, a mother is watching her kids drive around in one of those big-sized Hot Wheels cars. You know, the kind that kids can fit in no problem and just drive around. As they were going through the park, an old lady Karen shows up and starts to yell at the mother. Why? It wasn't because the children were bothering her or were trying to run her over with the toy car. Oh no, she was just mad that they were in the toy car without a license. For real. She felt that they needed a driver's license to play in a toy car. What a weird and stupid thing to be complaining about, Karen. Granted, this is an older woman, and she obviously didn't have this for her kids during her time, if she even had kids. But to be mad that such a toy exists in the world and the demand that they have a license for a car that literally goes at most 5 miles per hour, that's being a Karen, not a concerned citizen. Number 5. Karen's coffee. There are many thankless jobs in the world today, and one of them is a server or waiter, whatever you want to call it, at a restaurant or like a coffee shop. They have to take a ton of orders a day, have to remember details to make customers happy, and most of these people make a living off of their tips. Starbucks, being the mega brand that it is, often has a lot of rude customers because people just want to get their coffee and leave. But for one Karen, that just wasn't enough. The Karen comes up to the barista who served her and rips into her, stating that she screwed up the order. The barista knows that she didn't, but she can't get a word in because of the Karen. Being the bigger person, she offers multiple times to fix the coffee and just get her a new one. But the Karen keeps on ranting and then eventually throws the cup of coffee towards the barista. First of all, that can technically be called an assault, and it was all on security cameras. If that coffee had come out of the cup and burned her, Karen would have caught a case. Let this be a lesson. If you have a problem with a waiter, server, barista, treat them with respect as you spell out the problem. Else, you're going to be turned into an internet sensation in the worst way possible. Number 4. Karen's photo. Here we have a curious case of a Karen thinking that she knows the law, and yet clearly doesn't. In short, 2 teenagers are trying to make a TikTok video in a mall, and one of them happens to snap a photo that contains a middle-aged Karen. When the Karen notices this, she demands that the girl deletes the photo. When she refuses, she goes and rants about how she'll tell on them to security for taking photos without people's permission. The girls call her bluff and they tell her to go ahead and do it. The Karen then tells them to come with her to the security office, which they refuse. So then the Karen takes a photo of them without permission, and heads out, which means she just did exactly what they did. LOL. For the record, it's not illegal to take photos in a public place without people's permission. It happens all the time. The illegal act can be selling these pictures in certain circumstances or using them in certain ways. But taking pictures in a public place is not illegal. And now there's a TikTok video showing why this woman is a fool. Number 3, Karen's books. Have you ever gone to a store and they don't have something that you want, even though they probably should? Like maybe they just ran out of stock just before you got there. If it's happened to you, then you probably felt bad or upset, but you probably didn't take it out on the staff there. She went into Barnes & Noble, a very respected bookstore chain, and asked for the latest work from Paul Sheldon, a book called Misery. However, for one reason or another, the store didn't have it. And when they told her that they didn't have the book, the Karen blew up. She got mad at the clerk because it's a very popular book. And when the clerk noted he hadn't checked it out himself and didn't know it, she blew up even more. How could you not know about Misery? The irony of the situation is that if she had just called ahead to see if they had the book, she would have gotten her answer quickly, though likely the phone conversation would have been loud. Number 2, Karen versus skaters. There are some laws against doing certain sports in certain areas, but a gray area for most is skateboarding or skating in general. Most times, skateboarders will go and skate in areas that allow them to do the kinds of tricks that they want to do, like off of stairs or down rails and whatnot. It's not technically illegal to skate in this area, but some people don't like it, and they can be told to leave. There have been multiple Karens who get so worked up at skateboarders that they threaten to call the cops. In several cases, they actually do call them, and they're just told that there's not much that they can do about it. In one case, a Karen tackled a young guy and held the board hostage in order to get them to leave. Wow. A kind word or warning probably would have sufficed, but it appears to never be enough for Karen. Number 1, Karen at Kroger. As any parent would tell you, trying to control your kids at a grocery store can be tricky. But for one woman, she was annoyed because of the perceived slight of another woman. What's worse, the Karen in this case was white and the person she was accosting was black. And it only gets worse from there. Shanika Montgomery Strickland was with her kids at Kroger when one of her kids stepped on a shelf to get something. A white woman saw this and got really mad at her and the kids. So mad was she that she went and straight up stood behind Strickland's car and literally boxed her in so that she couldn't leave. She refused to move even after Strickland started recording the endeavor. The woman blasted Strickland verbally and called her all sorts of names. Eventually, the Karen had the police called on her, and many statements had to be made. In a later video, Strickland called out the racism the Karen had shown and noted that this was the craziest thing I've ever seen. For real, calm down, Karen. Go trim your bob or write a Yelp review. Thanks for watching. What did you think of these Karens? Have you had a Karen experience? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.